Hi, this is Stephen from Own or Diso. Well, in this video, I will be reviewing the 2022 MSI GE66. It costs $3,849. And for that, you get a max 150 watt RTX 3080 Ti, an i9 12900HK CPU, 15.6 inch 120Hz 4K panel, 32 gigabytes of DDR5, 4800 MHz RAM, and a 1TB SSD. The laptop was kindly provided by GentechPC. Now, I had purchased my Dragon Shield model from them and I had no issues with that. And Ken there is responsive and helpful. Now, they also offer discounts for cash and often you can find discount coupons online. Before I launch into the review, a quick word from today's sponsor, Asus, who sent me 2 laptop power accessories to look at. The first is a 20,000 mAh battery pack that has a total 100 watt power delivery that is ample to power a laptop, an iPad or multiple devices at the same time. One useful feature is the display that shows the percentage of the power left, the amount of time left to charge your devices and the voltage and current being used. When charging, it displays the amount of time left before it is fully charged. You have 2 USB-C ports supporting 100 watts out and 65 watts in, and 2 USB Type-A ports for lower powered devices. It supports fast charge, so you can charge such as your MacBook Pro 16-inch up to 36% in 30 minutes. And it's only 0.7 inches thick and can easily slip into your laptop bag. Now, I did find it quite useful, especially when you can charge 4 items at the same time. It costs $100 on Amazon. The second item is a 65 watt charger block with 2 Type-C ports and 2 USB Type-A ports. It's a high-speed charger, charging a 13-inch MacBook Pro in less than 2 hours, and an iPhone 13 to 50% in 30 minutes. It's much faster than its original 5 watt charger. Now, I like that you can charge up to 4 items at the same time. This can save you a bunch of spare space in your bag with all the cables when you travel. Now, the cable length is 5 foot, so it easily allows it to stay on your desk, when you've got it plugged in. And they supply a 3.3 foot USB-C cable. Now, it certainly is clean looking. It's great for someone who travels a lot, and at $45, I do think it is good value. And I have a link in the description for both of them below. So, okay, back to the MSI GE66. Now, the other models are available are $2,600. You get the 3070 Ti, a 240Hz QHD panel, and an i7-12700H. The 12900HK model is an extra $150. And as you will see shortly, I don't think that CPU is worth it in this system. Now, one thing to bear in mind when I bought my GE66 from them was that I didn't have to pay tax, as I don't live in California, and that can save you a whole lot of money. So let's see if it is worth it. Now, the GE66 continues to have a mux switch, allowing you to choose using dedicated GPU or hybrid mode. Now, all of my testing was done in dedicated GPU mode. The GE66 has 5 power modes. The first is AI, where it automatically switches modes based on the workload. You can also choose programs that you want to automatically use extreme performance mode. Now, this is useful. In auto mode, you can have it running, say, in silent mode there when browsing the web, for instance, and then when you fire up a game, you are sure to get the max performance without having to do it manually. In extreme performance mode, you can also choose a GPU overclock setting or set the fan speed. Leave it on auto, cooler boost, or max fan, or even create a custom fan curve for the CPU and the GPU. Now, in my testing, I chose to keep the power mode with the max fan. So let's compare the effect of the power modes on the frame rate, CPU and GPU power, thermals and fan noise. I am using Far Cry 6 4K and Ultra settings for this test. And at the top is extreme performance and max fan, then the same power mode with auto fan, then below that balance with auto fan, and at the bottom we have silent mode with auto fan. Extreme performance mode sees the 3080 Ti use 146 watts and the 12900HK use 45 watts. Max fan reduces the CPU temperature by 6 degrees and the CPU by 5 degrees, which is pretty decent, but it comes at the expense of fan noise. With an ambient of 37 decibels, max fan is at 55 decibels, whilst auto fan is at 45. And since the thermals are still good with auto fan, the 3 FPS difference is a good trade-off, I think. Now balance mode with autofan sees the GPU watts drop to 122 and the CPU stays at 45 watts. Thermals are about the same, but you do take a hit in frame rate, so at 45 decibels mark, I would stick with extreme performance and autofan. Now for those seeking the most quiet of systems, then silent mode is a great option, especially at 4K, where the GPU is the deciding factor. The 3080 Ti is only 2 watts less than balance mode, and even when the CPU drops to 25 watts, it maintains the same frame rate as balanced. But the fan noise is only 40 decibels. That is only slightly above ambient. And you will notice that a lower fan speed makes the 3080 Ti become thermally limited as it hits 86 degrees. Now, switching to 1080p, it is interesting to see that the GPU does get hotter than at 4K. The CPU doesn't share any heat pipes with the GPU, but it does share a heatsink. So perhaps that just gets saturated and the autofan struggles to move the heat away fast enough. I also did some benchmarks with GPU overclocked by 200 MHz. Using the inbuilt benchmark in Far Cry 6 older settings, I show the GE66 in yellow and blue. I show 1080p and 4K. It was actually slightly faster than the 3080 Ti in the Alienware X17R2. I still think the 3070 Ti represents better value, being only 8% slower. Now no cooler is brought in via the keyboard, which is a shame, but the main areas of the chassis remain comfortable to use. And the max fan certainly pushes out lots of air. It certainly handles 4K gaming pretty well, running cool with the max fan even in Battlefield 1, which is a title that does make a computer run pretty hot. Battlefield 2042 is a tough game to get 60 FPS at 4K using older settings, but it still is smooth. The 12900HK tends to make good use of the efficiency cores in this title, so perhaps if you disable them in the advanced BIOS, you may get better performance. It does seem to fall behind other systems at 1080p and also has quite a low 1% low, but it must be pointed out that there's so much going on in this title, it is hard to get consistent figures. In extreme performance mode, the PL1 is 110 watts and in balance mode it is 55 watts. So it is disappointing that under a CPU only load it settles at 71 watts. Perhaps this is because there's such a large spread in temperature between the cores, ranging from 71 to 96 degrees. And this is despite the 12900HK using their new phase change liquid metal pad. Perhaps it's best to have Gentech replace it with, say, liquid metal for only 1 cent. Now in a short run test, Cinebench R20, it performs slightly behind the Aorus 17 12700H that also runs at 70 watts. The Alienware X17R2 and its 12700H runs at 115 watts, so you can see that this 12900HK is being starved of power. In the longer running Cinebench R23 test, it still falls behind the 12700H in the Alienware. And we see the same in a handbrake encode. So if you are considering this GE66, I would save some money and go for the 12700H model. Now you can undervolt via the advanced BIOS, but even a 20 mV undervolt would cause the system to be unbootable. I also wasn't able to change the multipliers via XTU, and I did it in the BIOS, but they didn't seem to hold. The 4K panel does give you the option to switch color profiles. Now I know some people don't like the oversaturated look of Adobe RGB, so it is good to see that you can use sRGB mode should you wish. Now ghosting performance, even with 120Hz refresh rate, wasn't great, and it is a shame there's not G-Sync. So perhaps the 240Hz QHD panel may be better for people who are gamers first and content creators second. Now backlight bleed was very good. The anodized aluminium lid is clean looking with quite robust and stiff hinges, and as with many enthusiast gaming laptops, you have a hinge forward design in which to house the large rear heatsinks. You get 3 USB 3.2 Type A ports, but only one of those on the left hand side is Gen 2. There's a USB-C with a mini DisplayPort 1.4 as well as Thunderbolt 4, and you get a separate mini DisplayPort 1.4 and an HDMI, which is good for 4K at a 120Hz. Now the SD card does stick half the way out, and it's also not super fast, but it is good to see that they have one. The keyboard, trackpad and RGB lighting is the same as it has been since the RTX 2070 model. The SteelSeries keyboard is good, perhaps the only complaint being the half-sized FN and control keys on the right hand side. Now the perky RGB lighting remains one of the best, with many options to choose in their software. And I have always been a great fan of the RGB light bar at the front, and this can be turned off if you wish. Now the webcam is 1080p. So here's the webcam. Looks pretty smart at the top, and it's actually got noise cancelling. So now I don't have noise cancelling, and I've got the washing machine going in the background. So let's put the noise cancelling on. We'll see if that makes any difference to the output, but certainly it looks pretty sharp. The dynamic audio software gives you good options, including a smart setting that dynamically adjusts the settings for you. Now, unfortunately, the speakers, they still sound pretty tinny, and only about average in volume. But I did think the microphone was better than my 2070 Supermodel. Unfortunately, like all the Intel 12th Gen laptops I've tested thus far, it failed my real-time latency audio test, with the AC PI driver being the main culprit. The underside is made of plastic, and it is easy to remove, providing you break one of their tamper-proof stickers. I would have liked to have seen better air intakes, especially since no air is brought in through the keyboard. Now, it does have a big battery, 95 watt hour, but it only lasts me 3 hours 15 minutes streaming YouTube at 50% brightness in hybrid mode. Now, you do get two M.2 slots and upgradable RAM. Mine has 32GB in dual channel, single rank by 8. The Wi-Fi 6E card worked pretty well, and you have a total of 6 heat pipes and 4 heat sinks. Now, despite all of this copper, it only weighs 5 pounds 6 ounces, or with a 280 watt power brick, 7 pounds 11 ounces. Now, I did like their live update option, making it easy to update all of the drivers. So how would I sum up the MSI GE66? Well, the 3080 Ti is a bit of a mixed bag. At times it performs the same as the 3070 Ti at 1080p, but does allow decent 4K gaming. I think the 3070 Ti is much better value, and the 12900HK seems kind of pointless when it's capped at 71 watts, so stick with that 12700H. Now, if you do get the 4K model, it was good to see that silent mode performs similar to balance mode and provides a near silent system. I'm not convinced by the phase change liquid metal pad, so at least you get regular paste on the 12700H, and my friend has tested the GP66 with that CPU, and it does run cool. Now let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching. Bye now.